Hey guys, and welcome to our Halloween special. This is the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy show. You know what? With no further ado, just go to the music.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy show. I am Captain Fizz.
And of course, I am that local fellow, that Mask Guy.
So, as you know, today is Thursday. It is 2 days before Halloween, but we don't do a show on Saturday, and I'm going to be way too busy doing other stuff, like spooking people, to actually do a show. So tonight is now Halloween, so close your eyes, close your mind, and pretend tonight is October 31st. It is now Halloween. Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween!
So tonight we are going to talk about all things spooky, all things terrifying, and all things horrifying. I don't know. I got no other words.
Just stop while you're ahead, man.
I'm never ahead. I'm just having fun. It's Halloween. It's a phenomenal time of year. You know, all the people walking around in costumes, and all you people not walking around in costumes, we know who you are.
If
Captain
you're coming
Fizz.
to my house and you do not show up at my door with, no costume on, no candy for you.
Yeah, see,
Well, maybe I will give you candy just so you don't egg my house, but not as much as the cute little kid going off and wearing the ladybug costume.
Yes. See, I'm going to have a phenomenal costume this year. I am going as Bubba Ray Cyrus. I am Billy Ray Cyrus's fat, untalented cousin.
If you guys don't understand what we're talking about, go check out the history of @FizzMask Show on Twitter. Scroll back a few days and you'll see there is a picture of him dressed up in that costume. Might go off and take a couple pictures more and post those up. Perhaps you might even see some tonight. I don't know. So
Yeah, it's hard to say. Honestly, I think the costume definitely, says who I am, and I am a fat Billy Ray cousin, and so that means Billy Ray Cyrus owes me money.
you know what you call a chair that Bubba Ray sat on? An achy breaky chair, man.
Achy breaky chair.
Achy breaky chair, man. I am so sorry.
You broke my achy breaky heart.
For all those people out there who are beasts who are listening, I apologize.
I do not. We're gonna talk tonight about classic horror movies. One that I know you're not huge on the horror scenario. I am. I've pretty much been a fan of horror and Halloween since I was a wee little brat, which was probably about 3 years ago.
You know what, man? I'm gonna follow your lead on this episode. So
okay, that's fine.
You go right ahead and you start.
I honestly I have to go back to a very classic movie. There was actually 3 of them that growing up. And I remember these movies absolutely terrified me. They were the classic Halloween movies, and they were Mimic. Basically it's almost like the human centipede, but it was basically aliens as cockroaches. And, this was the only movie that was actually able to terrify me to the point that I couldn't even walk home from my friend's house, and he was my neighbor. I saw the street lights, and it was just one stream of light straight down, and that was not enough light. And it was terrifying, and I miss those movies. They are not the same anymore. I could actually watch them late at night and not panic, which is sad. But definitely a classic movie, one that really set the bar on horror/alien movies.
Yeah, I mean, again, I will go off and I'll fully admit I'm 10 years older than you are, so I have kind of different memories. The first horror movies I actually got to see would be Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. Actually saw I didn't realize what it was at the time, but I watched Halloween 3. Which is the only movie in that franchise that doesn't actually feature Mike Myers.
Yes, Halloween 3 was a classic, but of course, obviously not the best due to the lack of Michael Myers.
Yeah, it had a subtitle, and the plot was kind of weird. I'm not even sure. I mean, I think it's a shame that they even go off and even bring it up in the same breath. It shouldn't even have been called Halloween, to be quite honest.
No.
They just went up and took advantage of the name power to try to go off and put out a crappy movie. Another one that I remember watching was the original Fright Night. I mean, honestly, it's funny to me because a lot of the horror movies I actually remember watching as a kid were the movies that I ended up seeing late at night because I either couldn't sleep or I was sick, and those are the one. And so I'd be laying on my couch and I'd see these weird movies. Fright Night for me, the original one, I thought it was pretty good. I've seen bits and pieces of the movie with Colin Farrell and David Tennant, and I don't think it's quite as good.
No, definitely it was lacking a lot. Different storyline, different characters, obviously. And it wasn't the same. A lot of remakes or sequels, trilogies, whatever, start to lack. It just is what it is. There is one, of course, that will never lack as it goes on, and of course, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
No matter how many times they make that movie. Wes
Craven.
Wes Craven. When he made the movies, didn't matter how many times he made them, they were phenomenal. They cannot be outdone, they cannot be remade, and they should never be remade.
Well, I remember I just read a story not that long ago about it, and originally, this whole thing with Freddy Krueger was supposed to simply just be a dream. And she was supposed to wake up, and all her friends would be alive and everything. It was supposed to be a happy ever after, but the studio told Wes Craven no, that they saw the money at Freddy Krueger, and they wanted to go off and be able to make sequels to this. And the only way that they could go off and to do that is if Freddy Krueger was very much real. And of course, I mean, you look at Freddy Krueger. I mean, not only did they go off and I believe it was like 8 movies. Featuring, the original, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, what his name was, but, I mean, the original actually played Freddy Krueger. But, I mean, think of all the merchandising that they managed to go off and pull off this. And a lot of this stuff is, like, it was for kids, which, I mean, to this day, I am absolutely, shocked by.
Well, yeah, and, honestly, if you haven't known, we have lost our beloved director, producer, and creator of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street, of course. He also did the Scream franchise as well.
Yeah, so we have lost our beloved creator.
Not our beloved creator, but, I mean...
As a horror fanatic, someone who lives and breathes, he was pretty much one of the reasons why I was able to stay hooked to the the genre of horror and mystery and suspense and and all that wonderful stuff, was because the worlds that he spun, he created. And without Freddy Krueger, kids would not be afraid to sleep. There's some movies out there that make you afraid to be awake. And Freddy Krueger makes you afraid to be asleep.
Yeah, it was kind of, it was one of those movies that, growing up, what was the kid's natural defense against the monsters? To hide under his covers.
Yes.
And, I mean, with Freddy Krueger, you definitely didn't feel safe no matter where you were.
Yeah, no, and that was a phenomenal aspect. And what was actually phenomenal about this is Freddy Krueger wasn't just something that he created. This was something that every time he closed his eyes, every time he went to sleep, he saw Freddy Krueger. This was a living, breathing apparition inside his head that his only way to deal with it, to get rid of it, was to actually write it out. And it became this huge franchise that it is. Many people have tried to capitalize on it, to rebrand it, recreate it, but they cannot do the justice that Wes Craven did.
Absolutely not. One of the things about that franchise, though, was just the amount of comedy that was in it.
Well, like with how dark and how twisted it was, you needed that comedy in there to bring it down to a normal level. Because yes, you want to terrify people, you want to make people question, you want to make people really concerned and look around them. But at the same point, you want them to be able to continue coming back to watch it. You don't want them so terrified that they're never going to watch it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Another franchise that kind of was on similar lines would be Leprechaun.
Yes. Now, when talking about Leprechaun, we must acknowledge that the final three did not exist.
I don't know. The only I've only seen, I think it's the first one, and Leprechaun in Space. I think we're the only ones I've never seen. I've never seen In the Hood, and I haven't seen the Leprechaun Origins that WWE brought out.
Yes.
I think it was earlier this year with Hornswoggle.
Yes, I have failed to watch that one. I love the whole franchise of Leprechaun. I'm sorry, a wee little guy running around killing people. It was just a phenomenal storyline that they were able to create out of that. And yes, it was not the most entertaining. It was not the most horrifying, but it was suspenseful. It had a lot of mystery, and it always made you guess on how he was going to kill his next victim and why. And the first three were phenomenal. Then they did the whole In Space, In the Hood, and it just made you cringe, and not a good cringe.
Yeah, well, the nice thing is, I mean, it went off and helped prolong the career for Warwick Davis. I mean, here's a guy, I mean, he's probably one of the most successful little person actors, not just in Hollywood, but around the world. And probably, one of the few people probably can remember by name. The only other little person actor whose name I can actually remember is Peter Dinklage.
Yes, definitely. Peter Dinklage is in the same, aspect, but I would really like to see Peter Dinklage actually do some horror movies. And I just love saying that name.
I don't know. There's something about Peter Dinklage's voice which is just absolutely phenomenal.
He would play
anything he does.
He would play a perfect leprechaun.
I'm not sure he would be very willing to go off and to do that, but who knows? I'm just going back to some of the movies I remember. Have you ever seen the movie Silver Bullet?
No, I have not actually, but let's hear your opinions on Silver Bullet.
Silver Bullet, it happens to be my friend Sweet Daddy's favorite horror movie. I remember him telling me for years and years about this, and finally, one night while he was babysitting some kids, he invited us over after the kids went to bed, and we watched this phenomenal movie. And it's about a little boy who, while everyone else is kind of hesitant to believe it, is going off and crying werewolf, so to speak. And he happens to be in a wheelchair. And, as the story goes on, I mean, when they finally realize there is truly a werewolf, they actually, I mean, Silver Bullet kind of, speaks for itself as to, how everything goes. But you know what? I mean, and that was, I think, the first time I ever sat down and watched, a werewolf movie. I mean, I remember watching the original Friday the 13th. Actually, I saw the the first one and then watched